Happy Thursday, Rap family. We hope your week has been kinder than Brown Mogotsi's morning today. Find out why in today's Rap. Elsewhere, Parliament's Phala Phala committee finally has a chair and things are about to get interesting. Sisisi Tolashe is somehow still ANC Women's League president despite, well, everything. And a certain South African exec's shiny new job lasted less than 24 hours before his apartheid past showed up uninvited. Internationally, 5 miners were helped out of a flooded cave in Laos, reminding us that humans can be brilliant when we work together. Scientists in Angola stumbled onto dozens of species nobody has ever seen before, and AI may soon be doing your job from your own laptop. Also, our WhatsApp channel just hit 1,000 subscribers, which means 1,000 people have excellent taste. Join them at explain.coza/subscribe. And forward this to that colleague you always debrief with at the canteen. Give them something to talk about over lunch that isn't office drama. So let's dive into these stories and more in this week's Wrap, brought to you by myself, Roshni Pillay, and the Explain to Koza team. First up in your national news, controversial Northwest businessman Opa Brown Mogotsi was denied bail in the Johannesburg Magistrates Court today. Mogotsi was arrested in May after appearing before the Madlanga Commission. He faces charges including perjury, defeating the ends of justice, and unlawful possession of a firearm, stemming from when he allegedly fired 11 rounds at his own car in Vosloorus in November, then reported it as an assassination attempt. The magistrate also flagged him as a flight risk after none of his addresses checked out. The case continues on the 12th of June. The ANC Women's League still hasn't fired its disgraced president, Sisisi Tolashe, this despite the fact that she was fired as a minister and the ANC's Integrity Commission recommended she resign from the league. She's facing ANC disciplinary action for allegedly commandeering 2 luxury SUVs donated to the league for her children. But while the ANC is pushing her to step aside, the Women's League noted on Saturday she has refused to do so. Instead, it has placed Tolashe on special leave. The Madlanga Commission's second interim report is now with President Cyril Ramaphosa. Like the first report, it's not been publicly released. The Commission is still hearing evidence and it's due to wrap up by the 31st of August this year. That, the presidency said, will be made public. He can still act on the reports before that, though, and has put in place a special task team to investigate allegations coming out of the Commission. Thankfully, the criminal justice system has been active with several high-profile arrests. A South African executive lasted 1 day at Tata Steel Netherlands before getting fired over his apartheid-era past. Pretoria-born Donald Pulse was hired as the company's sustainability chief on Monday, a controversial move that had already drawn criticism from environmentalists for jumping ship to one of Netherlands' biggest polluters. Then Dutch media unearthed that he had led the Afrikaner Studente Front, a right-wing student group that stormed a Nelson Mandela speech at the University of Pretoria in 1991. Tata terminated his contract the next day. South Africa's June fuel prices are a mixed bag. From yesterday, petrol prices increased by 1.43 cents per litre, while diesel dropped as much as 3.25 cents per litre. The petrol hike comes down to the government ending its fuel levy relief, while international refined diesel prices fell during the review period. Good news if you're a farmer or trucker, less so if you're just trying to get work. The remaining tax relief disappears completely on 1 July, so next month could be a tough one again. In your international news, Israel and Lebanon have agreed to a fresh ceasefire, but there's doubt it will hold. Following a 4th round of US-mediated talks in Washington on Wednesday, both sides agreed to renew April's fragile truce and establish pilot security zones in southern Lebanon, from which Hezbollah would be banned. Trump, who called Netanyahu a great partner, said an Iran peace deal could happen over the weekend, though he also added, who knows? Hezbollah was not part of the talks and says it won't abide by any agreement. Messy. French President Emmanuel Macron and Rwandan President Paul Kagame have inaugurated a genocide memorial in Paris. The Portuguese designated, or rather designed monument named Le Archive was unveiled on Tuesday on the banks of the Seine, honoring the 800,000 Tutsi victims of the 1994 massacre. Macron has acknowledged France's failure to act on warnings ahead of the slaughter, though he stopped short of a formal apology. Kagame praised his courage and humanity, rich considering Kagame's own history of authoritarianism, human rights violations, and his bloody role in the Eastern DRC. Still, it's a reminder of one of Africa's darkest chapters. AI might be moving out of the cloud and onto your laptop. At Computex in Taipei on Monday, NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang unveiled RTX Spark, a chip designed to run advanced AI directly on PCs from brands including Dell, HP, Microsoft, and Lenovo. Instead of typing, clicking, and opening apps yourself, you could increasingly ask your computer to do things for you, a shift Huang likened to the smartphone revolution. As he put it, you ask and the PC does the work. Handy? Definitely. A little unsettling? Also yes. An international diving effort saved 5 trapped gold miners in Laos on Saturday and restored our faith in humanity. After heavy rains flooded the cave, the global cave diving community swung into action, with rescue veterans from the famous 2018 Thai cave rescue joining teams from Thailand, Finland, France, Indonesia, Malaysia, Japan, and Australia. Divers found the men about 300 meters inside, kept pumps running through the night, and helped them reach safety. 2 miners are still missing, but 5 families got their miracle. Scientists exploring Angola's remote Licima Plateau have found dozens of species previously unknown to science. This includes new dragonflies, grasshoppers, butterflies, moths, and a spider that glows blue under ultraviolet light, very main character energy. The February expedition was led by the Wilderness Project's Rob Taylor and found far more biodiversity than expected. He described it as a privilege and a thrill. The plateau feeds 4 major African rivers, so protecting it means safeguarding water, ecosystems, and climate resilience. Moving on to your big stories, the election of Mzansi's Makashule Ghana as chair of Parliament's Phala Phala impeachment committee is not just another procedural step in a scandal that has followed President Ramaphosa for years. It is a sign of how Parliament is trying to reopen a politically explosive matter without allowing the process to look entirely captured by either the ANC or its opponents. Ghana, a measured and respected politician previously with the DA, was elected on Monday to lead the 31-member committee, which must now deal with the Section 89 process into the Phala Phala matter. The committee includes MPs from 16 parties, with the ANC holding the biggest bloc, followed by the DA, MK Party, and EFF. Smaller parties, including Rise Mzansi, the IFP, PA, and Action South Africa, each have a single representative. That composition matters. The ANC did not control the committee on its own, does not rather, but it remains powerful enough to shape the committee's direction if it can hold its allies together. The opposition, meanwhile, is divided among parties within the Government of National Unity, parties outside it, and those seeking to position themselves as independent watchdogs. This is why the fight of the chair was so revealing. The ANC initially wanted one of its own, while the Progressive Caucus, including the EFF, MK Party, ATM, and UAT, wanted someone outside the GNU. Build One South Africa leader Mmusi Maimane also pushed for the post, but failed to secure enough support. Ghana's election, therefore, represents a compromise, not ANC, not EFF-aligned, and not Maimane. Political analyst Susan Boyson told Explain that the outcome may free ANC members on the committee to defend Ramaphosa more directly while allowing the process to retain some appearance of distance from the governing party. The chair's role is important because they will guide the committee's rules, discipline, and direction when disputes arise. Political analyst Akile Ndlovu told Explain the position is similar to a speaker's role in parliament. The bigger question is whether this committee can produce accountability or whether it becomes another battleground in the long-running contest over Ramaphosa's political survival. His challenge to the Section 89 report is still before the courts, but Parliament has chosen to proceed anyway. That means Phala Phala is no longer only a legal fight, it is once again a test of Parliament's willingness to hold power to account. In your economic news, South Africa's economy is starting to show signs of resilience, but the recovery remains fragile, uneven, and vulnerable to global shocks. The latest indicators tell a mixed story. Last Friday, ratings agency Standard & Poor's maintained its previous positive outlook on South Africa, indicating that the country's fiscal position and reform path are viewed more favorably. But at the same time, the latest RMB-BER Business Confidence Index, released on Tuesday, showed that companies are becoming more cautious, with confidence falling by 8 points to 39 in the second quarter of 2026. Taken together, the picture is not one of a booming economy, but one that has begun to stabilize after years of pressure. The easing of load shedding, progress on fiscal consolidation, and ongoing team efforts have helped improve sentiment around South Africa's longer-term prospects. S&P said its positive outlook reflects the possibility of stronger growth if the government continues to stabilize debt, maintain fiscal discipline, and accelerate reforms, particularly in areas such as infrastructure. But that optimism is being tested. Businesses are still operating in a difficult environment, and the latest fall in confidence suggests that many firms are not yet feeling the benefits of the recovery. The Middle East conflict has added another layer of pressure by pulling up oil and fuel prices, which in turn affects transport costs, inflation expectations, and outlook for interest rates. That matters because South Africa's recovery has relied partly on the expectation that inflation will continue to ease and that interest rate cuts could eventually support consumption and investment. Instead, the oil shock has increased the risk that borrowing costs will remain higher for longer, delaying relief for households and businesses. Economists say this does not mean the recovery has collapsed. Momentum Investments' Sanisha Pakarasamy told Explain that South Africa's growth trajectory has been deferred rather than derailed. Investec's Lara Hodes shared a similar view, saying the country remains resilient despite the global uncertainty, with the S&P's decision pointing to confidence in the direction of reform. So, how is South Africa's economy doing really? Better than it was, but not yet well enough. The country has regained some credibility with ratings agencies, but weak business confidence, high costs, and global instability means the recovery is still narrow. The economy is moving in the right direction, but just not fast enough for most South Africans to feel it yet. Finally, Bafana Bafana should be focusing on football right now, but instead they're once again dealing with paperwork. The team arrived in Mexico on Tuesday to prepare for the warm-up match against Jamaica this Friday, but just days before traveling, the team was reportedly unable to go due to visa delays, leaving players temporarily stuck at home. The trip to Mexico, originally planned for Sunday, was delayed after the United States Embassy did not issue several players' travel documents in time. The team eventually left a day later, but the incident has sparked criticism of the South African Football Association, SAFA, the official football governing body which is responsible for organizing the national teams. SAFA is said to have only applied for the visas just before last week's squad announcement, which reportedly left too little time for some of its players to receive travelling documents. SAFA could have prepared documents for the wider known player pool and support staff earlier. Now, on its own, a one-day delay may not seem like a major issue, and travel disruptions happen in sport all the time. But for many fans, the frustration isn't just about the single incident. It's the feeling that these kinds of administrative problems are becoming a pattern. During the 2026 World Cup qualifiers, South Africa was also hit by controversy when midfielder Tebogo Mokoena played in a match against Lesotho despite being suspended, resulting in the team losing points. There have been other concerns too, including reports in 2022 of SAFA struggling to secure a training venue for Bafana ahead of friendlies. Repeated administrative errors can eventually have real consequences. The good news for Bafana is that the setback was relatively minor. The team still made it to Mexico and has time to continue its preparations. But the question remains, if South Africa's football teams are performing on the field, can SAPA keep up off it? Read the full story on explain.coza. That's it from us at The Wrap, an award-winning product of explain.coza. Simple news summaries for busy people. Till next week, bye from the team.